Shannon's got a vehicle running from us.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to work in law enforcement? From deputies on patrol, what it's like to work in corrections, dig into some cold case investigations, and reveal the multitude of untold stories of how our officers give back to the community. All stories from your neighbors, the hard-working men and women who serve the citizens of York County.
I can back 144 on 5.
This is YCSO Behind the Badge, the official podcast of the York County Sheriff's Office. Welcome to Behind the Badge, the official podcast of the York County Sheriff's Office. I'm Trent Ferris, Public Information Officer for the York County Sheriff's Office, and also your host. And before we move on, go check us out on our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube, where you can listen to us on that YouTube link as well if you don't have a podcasting service on your phone. And lastly, sign up for those Notify Me alerts straight to your phone and email at yorkcountysheriff.com. Anything happens in the county, something major happens in the county, we send out alerts through that Notify Me alert, so it comes in handy. So, at the recording of this podcast, it has been 160 days since COVID-19 shut down the traditional school learning environment, and when school heads back on whatever rotation your particular school may be on, Clover and York schools are already back in. They went back in August 24th. Rock Hill schools started back by the time you're hearing this on September 8th. So with an A, B, C virtual schedule, it'll totally be 175 days. That's nearly an entire school year that students have been away from the classroom setting. And so on this edition of Behind the Badge, we're going to talk to my friend who's in charge of the School Resource Officer Unit at the York County Sheriff's Office, Sergeant Tim Lee. Welcome to the podcast, sir.
Thank you for having me.
I'm glad you're here, man, because this is probably something that parents are going to want to hear, what's going on with the schools and SROs in general.
Absolutely. Maybe we can shed some light.
So we're going to try to keep this podcast down to 30 minutes. We try to keep it at 30 minutes because we're cognizant of your time, but we may go over because of all the stuff we got to talk about today, right. And SROs and schools and COVID and back to school and ABC days and masks, whatever. Right. So anyhow, before we get started on that mess, first tell us about Tim Lee. Just a little bit behind the badge. How long you been working in law enforcement, so on and so forth?
Got 21 years total. 19 years starting with the York County Sheriff's Office. I started my career in Greenville, South Carolina. So shout out to home.
Yeah, Greenville.
Did 2 years there, and then I moved up here and been here since. Regular patrol deputy. Moved up the ranks, was a patrol sergeant for a number of years, and then luckily got an opportunity to move, kind of burnt out on the road. Mm-hmm. Got an opportunity to move into a school and absolutely loved it. And I've just continued from there.
So a position came up and said, hey, we need an SRO in X school.
Clover High School.
What made you think, I'm going to go be an SRO?
Honestly, it came to me. I wasn't thinking about it. I was, like I said, I was just, the hustle and bustle of rotating shifts or, permanent shifts. Then we went to rotating shifts for years, and I was burnt out. And then Lieutenant Solomon called me one day and said, look, I'm getting promoted. I'm moving. I've got this opportunity. What do you think? And I thought about it for a little while, and I said, you know what? Yeah, I'd love to try this and give kind of go a different avenue of reaching young people, and absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I mean, you do coach.
I do.
You coach. You're able to coach in the schools because
Correct.
You're an SRO and everything. We do have some officers who volunteer as coaches.
Absolutely.
Throughout schools here and there, but you seem like the coach type, like a teacher coach type. If I were to see you on the street without your uniform on, I would say that dude's a coach at some school.
Yep. Still doing that. I coached football and wrestling at Clover for years, and now I'm a wrestling coach at Northwestern High School in Rock Hill School District.
So. Awesome. So what does an SRO do? I mean, the misconception of folks out there might think, oh, you're just a security guard. Right. You just stand there on the security guard in the school, and that's what you do.
Right.
I mean, that's completely false, correct?
Correct. Number one, obviously, our number one goal is to keep everybody safe. Mm-hmm. Like you said, there are a lot of misconceptions, but we've got three basic functions. We're a law enforcement officer first. Mm-hmm. We're a school educator, and we're a counselor. Mm-hmm. So there are times, if we're not walking the hallways, checking doors, helping out with administrative meetings or whatever, we get called into the classroom, and that's a great way of speaking to the students and letting them see a different side of us and letting us know that we are human beings as well. But then we also get the one-on-one to get, to answer those tough questions, that students have, especially with kind of the way the world's changing now. There's a lot more misconceptions of, who we are as people. So
Right.
I think this year is going to be even more important for us to establish those relationships in the hallway of speaking to students and, starting those relationships early on.
Because some students, probably the first interaction with a police officer is an SRO.
Correct.
And some may have an interaction out on the street, but you are in the position to change those misconceptions of what police officers are.
Absolutely. And I, like I said, I was fortunate with me coaching and stuff, opened up a lot more doors to even reach students even more. That I've got, lifelong relationships now with students, and several of them that have actually gone into law enforcement, and they have said that I was part of the reason why. So
Bingo.
yeah, it makes
Winner, chicken dinner.
That's right. That's what it's all worth. That's all worth it right there.
I mean, in the news, there's a lot of stuff out there. I mean, in the past, you've seen, cell phone video of
Right.
SROs doing their job.
Right.
In the classroom when you have an irate student doing whatever.
Right.
But that's just a percentage, a 1% of what your job. Mostly you use your mouth versus your
Absolutely.
your skills as a law enforcement officer with
Absolutely.
students, right?
Absolutely. And we pride ourselves on, de-escalating things and not getting involved in the school districts, all of them. We have 4 in York County. They all do a superb job of the administration handling what they need to handle, and then we're kind of the last resort because we don't want to look at, we don't want to be looked at as a negative in the school. So, but there are times when we have to do our job, unfortunately.
I mean, we've talked about it in the past. You identify different, gangs in schools.
Correct.
You charge people with, criminal charges if necessary. Correct.
If necessary.
And enlighten us on that a little bit.
There are little gang sets that we have that we've identified in the past and we have to deal with. A lot of information comes from parents or students that'll come up that you establish these relationships with students, and they'll come in and they don't want drugs in their school or they don't want weapons in their school. So numerous times when I was actually in a school, I'd walk into my office and I'd have notes up under the door saying, I heard so-and-so is going to have drugs on them today, or they're going to be selling drugs today, or have a knife on them, and that's kind of where it starts. And then it's kind of a snowball effect. You bring the administration in, you start doing these, investigations, and you try to make the appropriate charges of what's necessary. But, we're fortunate that the school districts all take different approaches, but they handle things different ways. Some districts, they do weapon screenings, which are amazing. They actually go in and pull a class out, and they search everybody, and they do a superb job. But, gangs, fights, unfortunately, that's probably the number one thing that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
And it's an unfortunate thing in public schools or any school in general. But
don't sugarcoat it. Because fights happen, and kids bring anything in from a box cutter to a gun to a school.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Anything, a pen could be used as a weapon, correct?
Absolutely. And that's something that not only myself and my unit, we go around during the summertime a lot of times, but pre-corona, and we talk to the administration about different weapons and stuff, and and how to defend yourselves, and active shooter training and things like that. We offer all of that to the school districts, and all of our school districts are very grateful and take us up on it. So,
well, it's glad to have you there. So, what schools are we in? We're talking about all the schools we're in. So we have SROs in how many and which schools?
So we cover all of the unincorporated schools in York County, but so to go through in the Clover School District, we've got Clover High School, the 9th grade campus, Clover Middle School, Oak Ridge, and look at me, I don't want to forget anybody.
Oak Ridge Middle,
Oak Ridge Middle, Clover Middle School, 9th grade, Clover High School. Then jump over to Rock Hill. We've got Rock Hill High. We've got Castle Heights. And then we've got a new SRO that come in that she's kind of helping out with the Rock Hill School District. So she'll be floating between all of the elementary schools that are in unincorporated, which is Leslie, Independence, Mount Holly, and India Hook. So that's Deputy Francisco. She'll be helping, but the majority of the time she will be at Rock Hill High. So we're going to have a separate or an extra SRO at Rock Hill High School.
And we have one SRO out here in York.
We have one out in Hickory Grove, Sharon, by herself, but she does a fantastic job. And then we cover other schools like elementary schools, but they also have their own districts have put in security officers. So
The SSO.
the SSO, correct.
Different from an SRO.
Correct.
A school resource officer.
Correct.
An SSO is a school safety officer, is that right?
School safety officer, school security officer, just depending on the district, but basically almost have the same functions as us. That they can't, they can still bring criminal charges, but they don't. They'll call us, then we'll go in if we have to, write a ticket or do something. But they're there. We have a wonderful working relationship with all of them in all 4 districts, and great help because it takes a little bit of stress off me trying to get to
Bouncing around from
Right.
all the elementary schools.
Correct.
When all the action pretty much happens middle
Correct.
school, high school level, right?
Correct.
And I know the SSO over at Leslie. I mean, my kids went to Leslie for a while there, and he seemed jam up. He seemed like he was, Johnny on the spot on anything that would happen.
And
so.
great communication with myself. If something was, about to pop off, he'd call myself or Deputy Bennett, who's at Castle Heights, who's my right-hand woman. She does, a fantastic job for the Rock Hill School District.
So it's good to have somebody in each school to be able to keep an eye on
Absolutely.
everything. Because, kids can be pretty sneaky from time to time, I'm sure.
Very.
So we have Deputy Hoberg at Corporal Hoberg at Rock Hill High, Corporal Bennett over at Castle Heights, and we have new Deputy Francisco. She's going to be floating around from all the elementary schools in Rock Hill High, but mostly at Rock Hill High.
Right.
And then
we got Deputy Beck at Hickory Grove Sharon, like we just said. Corporal McCoy at Clover High School. Corporal King at the Clover 9th grade campus. Then we have Corporal DeGiacomo at Clover Middle, and Corporal Feaster at Oak Ridge.
Yeah. So we're all over the place.
We are.
And if need be, like the SRO can leave a middle school or high school to go to an elementary school if need be, correct?
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, it's not like you want to,
Right.
but you're supposed to go to a school if it happens.
Correct, absolutely.
Oh, wow. So, since March, the first day, let's go back. Let's rewind the clock here, go back to March, and then all this COVID stuff starts hitting, and you're like, what do we do now? I mean, we're not, school's out. What do we do? Did you keep up with kids and students and everything?
We did. So one of the things that we did that we started working with the state and with each individual district was we had a list of students, and the school was trying to reach out to the majority of them, but the children that they could not get in touch with, they reached out to us, and then we assisted with DSS along with the school districts and went out. And if we had to go knock on doors, that's what we did, just to make sure that those children were safe, and everything that they needed, they're getting.
I know, because I heard a stat, like statewide, it was like 20% of all students in the state, nobody's heard from them.
Correct.
And that's probably in your more urban or rural areas, like in small counties and everything. But you took the time, and everybody made those contacts and made those calls to make sure kids were all right.
York County overall did a fantastic job. All 4 school districts did an amazing job getting in touch with their students.
So fast forward the clock, and now 160, 175 days, depending on when you're listening to this podcast.
Right.
You're back. School is back in, and SROs are back in. How is this going to change for the SROs? Is it business as usual, or is it COVID changing the way you're operating?
It's changing a lot. Obviously, everybody's masked up. But again, the interaction I think is going to be a little bit less. You're going to have less students that are in the school, depending on what day you're on. We're still business as usual, though. I mean, we're there to do what we got to do. We'll take care of the school, take care of the students. If there's something that we can do to assist, that's what we're going to do. And
but you're not going to go around like, "Hey, kid, you don't have your mask on. I'm going to write you up."
Absolutely not. That's a school issue.
That's what people think, though.
No, absolutely not. That is a district issue. Nothing that we're going to enforce or be involved with. And
same thing if a kid is coughing down the hallway or nothing. That's not your job.
No, sir. No. Yeah. No, we've already had one incident. One district since we've been in has already had a couple parents that have come in not wanting to comply with the mask mandate, and now again that falls on the district to deal with. But at some point, if they start causing a disturbance or something like that, that's where we will get involved. If we have to. Right.
And I guess some parents might think that they don't they won't, if they send their kid to school and they have something, they think that you're supposed to start in, come in and get them out of the school. Is that correct? Is that how it works? If like a kid comes to school and they say they're sick, but their parents send them to school and they know that they're sick. That's not you. That's the school district.
That's still
correct?
the school district, correct. I had one of my SROs called me just to clarify last week, just, if a student's sick and we can't get in touch with a parent, are we supposed to take the child home? We're not taking the children home or anything, but absolutely we'll go out and try to make contact to the parent so that they can come get them for whatever reason if they're not answering the phone or whatever numbers we have. But no, we're not getting involved in that. That's all the district's responsibility.
Just that's why I want to clarify to folks.
Right.
Clarify to parents who might be listening. It's like, why didn't the SRO arrest this kid for going up and down the hallway coughing? I mean, isn't that assault and battery or something like that? That's just as bad as fighting. That's not true, right?
No, it's not at all. Not at all.
Now, what if a kid goes around and starts coughing on somebody? Is that still a school district thing? Or
we're still going to allow the school district to discipline them, and then if it's a continual problem, obviously then we'll have to start looking into what would be the appropriate charge. And this is, again, all new stuff that we're going to have to look in, and study.
Yeah.
And just kind of, I think case law is going to set precedent over time of what's, how this is going to be handled.
Because I know, some kids are going to be kids.
Right. Especially in elementary schools. That's the one, you're trying to have the young kids keep their mask on, and they're going, hey, I like your mask, you want to switch, and, things like that. But it's going to be interesting.
Man.
Uncharted territory. That's where we are.
And so, as of the day, you have a couple. It's Clover's in,
correct,
and York is in,
correct.
This won't record. This podcast will come on in September. September, the first week of school, when everybody's in.
Right.
But so far, so good. I mean, what's happened thus far on the first day?
So far, so good. I've already checked in with a couple of my people, and they said it's going well. It's nice. The students so far seem to be on task, wearing their masks the way they're supposed to be, moving through the hallways, not congregating.
Because, high school, that's what people do.
Right. And so they got to keep moving. There's a lot of changes, and again, each district is different. So, we're not like Rock Hill City or, some of the smaller agencies. We've got 4 different districts that I have to be familiar with and what we're doing. So we all have different mandates in each district. They're all ran differently. But so far, it's going well. Smooth operation so far.
Let's hope it stays that way because, anything could change. I mean, nobody thought back in March that we'd have shut down school for 160 days.
Right.
Well, I mean, summertime doesn't really count because you would have been on summer vacation anyway. But
right.
And everybody, SROs, our SROs, they're wearing the masks and doing everything they're supposed to do.
Yes, they sure are.
And I guess every town has their own different mandate, and schools have their mandate to wear masks. That's the rule, though.
It is.
Kids wear a mask. You got to wear a mask in school.
It is, and again, some are different. Some are different. Some are want them to wear. It's kind of optional when they're in the classroom, but when they are out moving between class change or whatever, they have to have their mask on. There's no congregation. Some of them are spread out in the cafeterias the way that they're letting the children eat, the students eat or whatever.
How's that work? In a cafeteria, is it 6 feet apart in the cafeteria?
That's what they've got. So we're going to see how it works. I mean, when you go to Rock Hill High and you've got almost 2,000 students, A or B day, give or take, so you got 1,000. Cafeteria still doesn't hold 1,000. So it's going to be interesting to see how all this plays out.
They let them stay outside if they want to eat outside?
I honestly don't know that answer, what they're going to do. I honestly, that I do not know.
Somebody said we're flying the plane as we build it.
That's right. This is all new to us, so it's going to be interesting.
So we would just ask folks and the parents out there to be patient and understand this is all new territory for not just the school district, who's done a remarkable job over the summer figuring out what's going to go on.
Correct.
It's also the SROs are on uncharted territory here, trying to figure out what we're supposed to do.
Right.
So, all right, before we start wrapping this up, what are some things that you would want, aside from all the COVID mess, the things that you want a parent to talk to their student about when they're going back to school, what not to do and how to help you?
The biggest thing over the years, and I've been in the schools now since 2012, the biggest problem we have is social media. And as a parent, you need to be a parent, and I'm speaking for, 2 high schoolers that I have, I'm sure people have heard it, but they understand that I'm not their friend. My children, I'm their dad. I'm not their friend. So, I'm going to make sure that they're doing right. You know,
Right.
we're going to keep up with social media. Social media has been the biggest problem that we've had in schools in general, because something will start, you know, and then it pops off at school because everybody's around. So parents your child.
Just online rumors and such.
Right, you know, or, you know,
Cyberbullying. That kind of-
cyberbullying's a big thing, an absolute big thing. You know, making fun of somebody's hair, and then it continues. You know, next thing you know, instead of 3 or 4 people knowing about some small incident, you got 1,000, 2,000 that are commenting, and then they run into each other at school, and here we go. So,
and that could lead to anything.
correct. So monitor, just be aware of what's going on. Be aware of who your children are hanging out with. Mm-hmm. And just do the best we can do. Try to educate and make our kid make sure that our kids are making the best choices they can make.
Because the social media, it could be just something stupid, some teenage drama.
It normally is. It normally is something that after the fact we look back and we're like, really? This is why you're getting suspended for school or possible criminal charges that we shouldn't be involved. This is why
Right.
and it could be because somebody retweeted a picture of such and such boyfriend or girlfriend, or liked a picture, or that's literally how it starts.
Just a simple, hey, I like that picture. Click.
Yeah.
Why'd you like my girlfriend's
That's-
picture? That kind of thing.
Happens all the time.
That's amazing.
All the time.
So you're just asking folks, parents, that, hey, make sure you keep the drama at home and keep the education at the school.
Right.
The best you can.
The best you can.
It like I said, it's junior high or middle school drama and
Right.
high school drama.
Right.
But any kind of help would help.
Yep, and just have open communication with the children. And I mean, from when you and I grew up to now, it's a lot different. You know, the way children are wired and stuff, they're a lot different. Have a lot more capabilities at their hand, and
Well, it's also, you monitor your kids'
Right.
social media.
Absolutely.
I know we tried
Right.
with my kids, my daughter, and we tried. Oh yeah, you want an Instagram account or whatever? That went over like a brick in a swimming pool. It was bad,
Right.
and so we quit that. And she seems to be okay with it. And she's not missing anything.
The majority of times when I've gone in and spoken to classes and stuff, I'll ask, I'll point blank, the students, how many of y'all have 2 accounts for Instagram, 2 accounts, for Twitter or whatever, so that you can show your parents one account, and then you have another account, that you're talking to all your friends. And more times than not, probably 50% or more have multiple accounts.
So make sure your kid,
Just be aware.
make sure they may have the one that they show the good stuff, but they
Right.
can have another one that
Right.
shows a different side of them. So
Right. And
be
like I
aware.
said,
Be aware.
social media is just, it's been the biggest downfall in school for us. That's been the biggest challenge that we have and what we deal with on a daily basis.
What's one more thing for parents that would help you out aside from social media? Make sure they don't bring something to school that they're not supposed to. Make sure.
Right. Be aware. I mean, we have incidents all the time where, school districts are doing checks or whatever, and you may have somebody who hunts with dad or, fishes with them, and they may have, like an instance in the past where we've had, a tackle box that had a knife in it, and then they're getting, why do you
Bring
have this?
a weapon on school property.
Right.
Parking lot is school property.
We try to use, obviously, discretion there as to we're not going to get involved, but the school district still has to enforce their policy, whatever that may be, for whatever type of weapon, whether, it could be scissors, knife, shotgun shells, whatever, if they're hunting, So just, be aware. Make sure, like I said, know who your children are hanging out with, know who's in the vehicles, if you own a vehicle, who's driving to school and stuff, and that's a whole other thing, just with that cell phone, the wrecks, and us losing children in this county and stuff from, texting and driving and things of that nature. Just talk to them and educate them, and hopefully they make the best decisions for us.
And lastly, is there anything about kids bringing in any illegal narcotics, pills, marijuana used to be a thing. I don't know if that is it
Right.
now, but vape pens and stuff like that.
Vapes are obviously another big problem that we're having. Now they're kind of moving into the liquid marijuana that has THC in it or whatever. So vapes are a big issue that we're having. For the pills and stuff, the main thing I can say is just lock them up. Please do your due diligence at home and lock up the medications that so they don't have access to them. But the big thing now, like you said, is the vape pens. Vapes are a big issue
Because they're easy to conceal.
Absolutely.
They could just hold them in their hand, take a little head off.
Absolutely. And so now we're having before the coronavirus, we were having a lot of them where we have to take them and test them to see what the liquid is in them, and we're starting to find a lot more that have the THC in it, the active ingredient marijuana. So that's another big issue that we're dealing with.
So to a parent, basically, is be a parent.
Be a parent as best you can.
Watch your social media.
Right.
Make sure they're not bringing something to school that they don't need to have.
Right.
And make sure that if they vape pens, drugs, weapons, knives, just be a parent.
Be aware. Like I said, that's the biggest thing I try to tell parents is just be aware of who your child's around. And again, like you said, social media, who they're talking to.
Oh yeah, because they have their set of friends at school and they have their set of friends at home.
Right.
The kids they may go to church with,
That's
or
right.
some kids that they live in the same neighborhood with. But when
That's
they
right.
get to school, they have a different set of friends who may steer them down the wrong path.
Right.
So, I do it. I'm a parent.
That's right.
It's
tough.
She knows if I get a bead on something, I go to Tim Lee and say, "Hey,
That's
Tim,
right.
check out this kid for me." He goes, "Oh yeah, I'll check him out."
That's right.
And it's just the law, and I wouldn't say law, and that's a bad word, but the rule of being a parent.
That's right.
Is be a parent.
That's right.
The best you can.
Yep.
Wow, man. Well, we about made it to 30 minutes. That was quick.
Great.
But before we go,
Yep.
we always ask everybody we bring in here, because people want to know a little bit more about the person and about law enforcement in general.
Right.
And we always ask, since you've been in law enforcement 21 years?
21 years.
Started in Greenville, came here, been here 19?
19.
And
Yep.
been an SRO, been on the road, done all this. If you can go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice, or if you had somebody to give you one piece of advice about a career in law enforcement, what would it be? Something that it's like, hey, if I knew this 21 years ago, my life would have been a whole lot better, or my career would have been even better.
Maybe not so much if I knew this, but just leave the job better.
Mm-hmm.
So when I retire, I hope that people that I interacted with over the years will say he did good. He did well. He left the job better than what it was.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of misconceptions, and stuff going on right now in law enforcement, the way that we're, portrayed and viewed now.
Yeah.
So, and I still, I hope that people see the good in what we do and how we carry ourselves, how we speak to people, and, and just leave the job better.
Yeah.
I think, this job's tough, obviously.
Yeah.
I think morale's struggling across the country, and just leave it better. Leave it better than what it was, and treat people, obviously, the way you want to be treated.
It's simple. Respect. We've got a big sign on the wall in the training room down the hall, and the biggest word on the wall, it says respect.
Absolutely.
And if you respect everybody, treat them the way you want to be treated, I mean, the misconceptions about law enforcement would be completely different.
Absolutely.
So, oh, wow. All right. And you're starting that as an SRO. You're changing it. You're teaching kids at a young age that police officers are, not like what you see on the news.
That's right.
All right. Well, Tim Lee, Sergeant Tim Lee, if you ever need anything, just give him a holler. He's the SRO sergeant for the school districts in Rock Hill, York County, and the unincorporated areas. If you need anybody at Rock Hill, they can, Rock Hill PD's got SROs too.
Absolutely.
Go contact them.
We all communicate. Every one of us has each other's numbers, and we talk back and forth all the time.
Well, that's good.
Absolutely, because we've got schools inside the, in the realm of Rock Hill, even though we're not in the city limits.
Mm-hmm.
But our students are friends with their students, so sometimes we'll have things, cross over into schools, and so we have a very open forum. Open line of communication with all the SROs throughout, not just Rock Hill and York, but Fort Mill as well, and Clover. So,
Good. Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by, Tim.
Anytime.
But before we go, hey, make sure you go check us out on our social media pages, even though we talked about the the ills of social media with students. We're talking to the adults here. Make sure you go check out our Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and share this episode. The old-fashioned way, you could just, tell somebody, go check it out, or you can go on our YouTube page and listen to it. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, that we use the Anchor podcast service. That's where you can listen to this if you just want to listen to it online when you're sitting in front of your computer. But we're also on Spotify. Just do that, tell your friends, and catch up. because this is about podcast number 8. No, excuse me, 9. You're podcast number 9 now.
Fantastic.
So we're 9 in, and hopefully folks and parents will get a lot of information out of this about their school
hope so.
resource officers. One more thing. Sign up for those Notify Me alerts straight to your phone and email from YorkCountySheriff.com. And thank you for listening, and we'll be back next time on YCSO Behind the Badge.